What's up? Tom here, back at you with another video. PoE 2. PoE 2. I was thinking PoE 2 or Silk Song. In the end, I had to go for PoE 2. I just had to. You know what? Act 3. I gotta get through Act 3. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. The Silk Song, I know exactly what I'm gonna do. Alright. Do I go... I could also try another hardcore SSF, which I got a good idea from a Rax video. The idea is using gas arrow with the fire attunement support so that they blow themselves up. They naturally ignite the enemy, and so they naturally blow up those gas clouds. Give it multi-proj, get the overlapping AoEs, you're in business. And you just use that for bosses, and then for packs you just use, and he was using Unearth. But what if instead of Unearth I did Summon Raging Spirits? Now, Summon Raging Spirits is what I was using to blow up the gas clouds. You can also use Summon Raging Spirits just against bosses. But this is what I'm thinking about for hardcore SSF. I could also just do what Rax did and just do the Unearth minions. Let me do that. I'm gonna do hardcore SSF. Well, what's the point of going through again with all of that Twink gear, right? Create hardcore solo self-found. Witchy McWitch.
Foul witch! Your very own coven cast you out for your forbidden pursuits. Your twisted necromancy ends here, at the end of a noose. Speak your last!
How about... How about HCSSF Avant-Tom Witch?
What? The witch is escaping! Kill her!
Oh, I should have put minions instead of witch there. Damn. That was bad. Should have wrote minions instead of witch. That's gonna get confusing. Wise.
I will not join the dead today.
By the first ones! You're alive! I'm glad to see another lit the mill. Now, I would appreciate it if you could... Reach Clearfell. Find
In the beginning, you kind of just have to do everything the game
The
gives
dead
you.
rise again. Oh, I'm going to like it here. Insolent wreck! This oozes darkness. I welcome it.
I love her character lines. She's so fucking just bad, you know? She's a bad bitch. The witch is a bad bitch in this game. Like, out of all of the characters, she's the one I want to bang the most. 100%. Ooh, this item oozes darkness.
I just found my path to power.
Oh. She's so hot. Too bad she gets covered with armor. Alright. I don't know why I'm killing all the mobs. There's literally no point in killing all the mobs. I mean, I guess it makes the first boss easier if you level up first. Yeah, let's level up first.
My first
This is hardcore SSF, baby. You gotta
taste of true power.
over level.
The miller, I perceive.
Oh, that's weird. Thank God for iframes.
Impressive size, but little acuity. Dismal.
Delton!
Is this
Renly's the name. I'm Smith. There's a beast that, but now if you could channel your... Anything take your fancy?
I should look in my stash before I start buying stuff.
If you find a bind out there,
This is...
bring it back.
A kind leader.
This is intense.
Hopefully he survives.
We're on our hardcore SSF stash here. See, look at that. We've already got movement speed boots. I could do hardcore trade instead of hardcore SSF. I like the idea of doing SSF though. However, if you think about how many exalts you spend, wait, should I just re-roll hardcore trade? I think I might want to do hardcore trade. That way I can actually get the shit I need. Yeah. I think I'm going to do hardcore trade. I'm going to be very judicious with the trading though. Just for a couple of things, like maybe a decent weapon or a helmet or something like that. Well, actually no, I'm going to use it to its fullest. What am I saying? We have these boots. We don't have any augs, right? No, those would have been on our person. But yeah, movement speed is going to be great for us. Nothing else I can utilize. I do have a shield. Now, the damage that you get is kind of nice from having the wand and the scepter out at the same time. But I could always just map the chaos spells to the scepter. And then it won't do as much damage, but I'll have a shield. I think I should do that. So this wand is going in the stash. Now we're going to look for weapons here.
Welcome to the camp of all the... I fear this land. I like to hold on to bits and pieces.
Oh wait, am I just going to do trade though?
Catch your eye.
Increased spirit is a good first one. I think that's worth 197.
I hope it helps.
I don't think those are worth the money. This isn't exactly a mana-starved build. Alright, so let's go talk to Griswold here.
Out there, trust no these people. Be careful, be wary.
If you find a pot, anything take your fancy?
Don't need boots. An energy shield chest would be nice. This is hella good. For right now, hell yeah.
That'll keep
Okay.
you alive.
You got any energy shield helmets? Fire resistance? Yep.
You'll survive well in that.
You'll survive well in that. 800? No way. That belt is a fucking jip.
Stick to the cairns.
Can I gamble on a pair of gloves?
Welcome. If I don't got it, take a punt. You know you want to.
How much? 306?
Not even sure where I picked that up.
Yep. That's good enough. So I think orbs are going to be more important than money right now. we're just holding on to this. Well, let's put it in our stash.
He's a devious one. I like him.
Yes. I like to hold on to bits and pieces.
Oops. Disenchant is what I want.
Bye.
I think you do Contagion first before snipers. Any supports? Am I doing any elemental damage? Oh.
It's not time
Do I want to
kill
use
more
active block?
Yet.
Do I want to use active block? I see. Without the wand, I don't have, Oh, wait a second. I can lock this. And then go here. No. Oh, yeah. And I go over here. Oh, yeah. Okay. That is cool as fuck. I just noticed you can do that for the first time here. Alright. So that weapon is going to be my stash. Oh, I have a minion stash as well. Ooh. Nice. That's gonna help. Alright, anyway. This is not the item I want. This is.
Hello. Finn makes fun of my collection, but I think it's charming.
I'm trying to think. I don't think I can have this on both weapon sets. And the wand has to be in the left hand. Shit. So you can't do what I was hoping to be able to do. Okay. All I need is another scepter, but I can't afford another scepter right now. Unless I bought one on trade. If I bought one on trade, well, no, I can't do that yet. I'm only level 1. I'm way overthinking it now, which is really pissing me off. Alright, well, I'm going to try to go without using the wand and see how it goes. I didn't have any rings that I can wear. Of course, this requires level 10. The fact that I got this means I should make a monk, right? Alright, let's go out there and fuck shit up. I've got my block. I've got my minions. Shit. Okay, wait a second. I gotta bind my abilities here. Okay, there we go. Now I do that, but then I do that, they come back.
The darkness, something foul stirs beneath the surface.
I always just do the mud burrow right when I get to it.
The descent into darkness. I wouldn't have it any other way. I will dispel you. Death, pride, power.
Nice. Alright, here's Bossy McBosserson.
What a pretty worm.
Oops.
The tail. The raven always outsmarts the worm.
Regal, nice. Oof. Those are amazing. Not worth looking at those other boots. Gotta look at this. Nope. Okay. We got a level 2 gem. Let's go back to town, see what we get, and reassess. This is hardcore SSF. We don't want to be hasty. We want to make our decisions with the fullest amount of information. I don't have everything memorized in this game, despite having done it many, many times. Well, they also changed a lot this league. See, there's a support gem. Now let's see what gear he has. Actually, the first thing I want to look at is weapons.
Hello. I like to hold on to bits and pieces.
Main thing is going to be
Catch your eye.
plus to levels of minion skills. Which we're not seeing. That can also appear on helmets. And amulets. Am I able to wield this yet? Yes. I'm not sure about spirit versus 2 to 3 added cold attack damage. Physical damage is probably pretty good.
Yes? Please. Take your time.
Getting a good scepter required all my fucking exalts before. I would love to be able to just spend one exalt and just get a really good scepter. too low level for that yet, anyway. Let's disenchant.
Yes? Please, take your time. Sorry. These are just... Oh, I like this one.
Probably I just want to get Skeletal Sniper, actually, now that I think about it. Yeah. Fire attunement is so smart. Because these do poison damage, not cold or lightning. So fucking smart. Rax. My man, how did you think of that shit?
What have we got? Take a look.
I think I'm going to migrate to trade here. I think I might be able to buy something for a Regal. No, let's reevaluate when I have like 5 exalts. I can get that far without that. Okay, it's good. It's not the best of what I wanted, but it's pretty good.
Stick to the cairns.
So Clearfell, I still need to find the Cold Witch. And I need to do some witch on witch action here. Augmentation is really good. Yeah, no, I don't need to worry about flame wall, which is so nice. Fuck her up.
I think not.
No, you're taking that, bitch. You know what I leveled? I should look at the vendor.
Yes, these are just some odds and ends of mine. Goodbye.
How can I help? Here's what I got. If you find a pint out there, do bring it back.
Sorry. Goodbye.
Realise it is what they see in the mirror that's being held up that they're repelled by, rather than the person actually holding up the mirror. That just becomes a wonderful exercise in projection. So I'm categorically not praising the man, but I am discovering with every passing hour the reality of his opinions, and that then takes us to the reaction. And I've seen actually one right-winger, I'm not familiar with him, I'm not that plugged into American politics, and I don't know whether he's ignorant of history or whether he's absolutely stupid, but I've seen one right-wing commentator this morning suggesting that this is like the Reichstag fire in Nazi Germany. The Reichstag fire, if you don't know, involved the German parliament building being set on fire by one individual who was a Dutch communist, and Hitler used it to claim that this was all part of a massive conspiracy by all the communists, because 1930s Germany could have gone either way, it could have gone far left or far right, and Hitler knew that. The biggest threat to him politically was probably from communists, and he therefore lied about it being a massive conspiracy of people and that they had to round up all the communists.
Absolutely don't think that was true, but okay.
So once they started rounding up the communists and closing down democracy and co-opting the judiciary, you know what happened next. So I was a little surprised to see that point being made by somebody who would very much style themselves as on the same side of politics as Donald Trump or indeed Charlie Kirk. I didn't know Charlie Kirk was one of the people that lied about the 2020 election. So again, you know.
You didn't know that? Every single conservative. I think is there current polling on this? Last I checked, it was like 80 to 85% of Republicans believe the 2020 election was rigged. That's just so beyond the pale. Like,
I don't know what his position was on the insurrectionists, but pardoning people who've tried to overthrow democracy by using political violence is surely, under any analysis whatsoever, more of a catalyst for political violence than calling people names. And then I've also found myself in the last 24 hours reading people who used to claim that calling people names is just hurty words. Even Farage is in the Daily Mail today complaining about people being called names. And yet these are the guys who 10 minutes ago were telling us that our free speech was under that. I mean, I'm just really confused. Until you start wondering whether it is, as always, all about the race. as is often the way, the transgender people being used as camouflage in the first instance to go all in on the racism. Allowing public discourse to be vile again in the context of transgender people, you're never going to get that genie back in the bottle, and all of the people whose bigotries extend far beyond one issue have been filling their boots ever since. I want you to listen to something. First of all, I want you to listen to this. This is a political conversation from the Republican Party. I think he used to work for George Bush. Well, he definitely worked for one of the George Bushes. I just can't completely remember which one. This guy got sacked.
He's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions.
That is a guy called Matthew Dowd speaking on MSNBC. He got fired for those words shortly afterwards. This is a guy called Jesse Waters speaking on...
Thank you. What is it, CNBC or whatever? Thank you so much for protecting us from this radical liberal rhetoric. Thank you so much.
Hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions.
That is a guy called Matthew Dowd speaking on MSNBC. He got fired for those words shortly afterwards. This is a guy called Jesse Waters speaking on Fox News in more or less the same window of time, and both in response to this horrible murder.
Trump gets hit in the ear. Charlie gets shot dead. They came after Kavanaugh with a rifle to his neighborhood. They went after Musk's cars. They just shot 2 Jews outside the embassy. Think about it. Scalise got shot, barely survived. It's happening. We got trans shooters. We got riots in LA. They are at war with us. Whether we want to accept it or not, they are at war with us. And what are we going to do about it? How much political violence are we going to tolerate? And that's the question we're just going to have to ask ourselves. Now, Charlie would want us to put as much pressure on these people as possible. Dana nailed it. This is unacceptable and has to stop. And it has to stop now. And everybody's accountable. And we're watching what they're saying on television and who's saying what. The politicians, the media, and all these rats out there. This can never happen again. It ends now. Greg's right again. This is a turning point. And we know which direction we're going.
He's still got it. And, you know, I share his condemnation of political violence, but who are they? Who is this homogenous group of people that are all responsible for the actions of those individuals? I mean, he did actually go further.
We're angry, and we're resolute. And we're going to avenge Charlie's death in the way Charlie would want it to be avenged.
I'm talking about avenging now. And how can you be opposed to political violence but supportive of a man who pardoned the January the 6th insurrectionists? You remember that footage? You saw it. You watched it. Donald Trump lost an election, and his supporters attacked the Capitol and attacked the public servants working there and paid for the blood of the actual vice president. I still don't know enough about Charlie Kirk to know how he would feel about the coverage of his murder. But I mean, I'm certain that he wouldn't want people to be complaining about hearing his words being repeated and disseminated. And well, I don't know. I mean, listen, you talk about all of the people that Waters guy just talked about, and it's right to do so, but you then have to talk about Melissa Hortman and her husband, targeted in their homes, killed by a Trump supporter. That's a matter of record. The man charged with the attempted assassination of Pennsylvania's Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro in April. A Trump supporter. 4 Democratic elected officials targeted in New Mexico in 2022. The man who tried to kidnap a Democratic House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, and actually assaulted her husband, Paul. That's something that Donald Trump Jr. made jokes about. Imagine if someone was making jokes, someone in public life, a really senior Democrat, was making jokes about Charlie Kirk's murder now. What do you think would happen to him? But Donald Trump's son made jokes about attempted kidnap and attack upon senior Democrats. Everybody who wanted to hang Mike Pence on January the 6th, 2021 was a Trump supporter. By definition, if you were there, you weren't just a Trump supporter, you were also spreading lies, buying lies, disseminating lies, or to be generous, believing lies. And the list goes on. And the list should be married to the other list. They should all be on the same list. Gabby Giffords shot in the head, a Democrat. When you speak about they, all of these Democrats, is there some unidentified homogenous group, the radical left? Who are you talking about? People who support political violence. There are 2 types of people. People who support political violence and people who don't. Actually, there are 3 types of people. There are people who undertake political violence, and they are the worst. All right? Then there are the people who support political violence, and they are the second worst. And then there are the people who abhor and condemn political violence, and they are all of us. Why is that suddenly complicated in the context of this story? Why is it suddenly tribal? Why is it political or footballified? Here are the people who undertake political violence, up to and including whoever turns out to have shot Charlie Kirk, and all of the people, for example, who attacked the Capitol in 2021. Here are the people who support political violence, whoever is doing it, and here are the people who don't. That's a scary division, right? That's a really scary division. Because you kind of end up being told, in this context, in this sort of crucible of very carefully cultivated hatred, that anybody who disagrees with you is responsible for the political violence enacted against the people who agree with you.
Okay, hello. Welcome.
Greetings.
Okay, we're Tali and Dev will be here in about 2 minutes, but no need to wait. We can just kind of get started. Here we'll pull them in. So, without further ado, welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of the across ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. Today, we have had this week we've had a political assassination in America. Charlie Kirk was shot in the neck at a Turning Point USA event where he was on a college campus where a gunman who just was captured today killed him. This has caused a lot of discussion on where we are at as a country when it comes to political violence. And there's a huge uproar on the right, with many calling for blood, for war, civil war, all sorts of things. And there are many on the left who have been celebrating this as well. We're going to talk about today how, or if we even should, turn the temperature down, what is causing all this political violence,
people on
and maybe how to fix it. Again, we got 2 more guests coming, and they'll be here hopefully soon.
You mean people on Twitter? Which
but
there's always
first,
going to be
I want to give the mic
crazy people saying
to
everything.
Gen Z attorney. Tell us who you are, what you do, what are your thoughts on all this. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate you for having me on. I was just telling Wick before we started, it feels a little bit like I'm in a Rocky movie or a Creed movie where, I had my first debate panel literally 2 days ago, and it is your welcome fight, and now it's time to fight the champ. So excited for that. Appreciate the opportunity. I guess first off, for who I am, greetings, salutations. My name's Scotty Obe, aka Gen Z attorney. Currently a former prosecutor in North Carolina, currently work in private practice doing criminal defense, as well as really any type of civil litigation that comes in the door. So really just a little bit of everything. So even though that's my area of practice, I have a personal interest kind of for a while since getting into the law and the constitutional law stuff. So try to stay as up to date as I can on Supreme Court decisions and various facets of that. So a little bit about who I am. Obviously been aware of Mr. Destiny for a while, and actually kind of been the go-to voice of when I want to get a well-reasoned, well-educated left-wing opinion. I think starting back in the Manosphere arc, the Red Pill arc. And yeah, so as far as the situation itself, obviously I'm a right-leaning person. I'm trying to make the reasonable right be a thing again. That's my calling card, and I will extend as many olive branches as is necessary, even if that means beating you over the head with the olive branch, and hopefully to get to some sort of common ground. I don't know. Regarding the situation itself, I feel like we're going to get into that, so I think I'll hold off for now and let the other folks do their bit.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. I'm sure we will get into it. Tali, now that you're here, what are your thoughts?
Okay, sorry for the delay. My thoughts are that the extreme polarization in this country has obviously led us to a very shitty place. There's plenty of blame to go around, and lots of that blame is should be deservedly directed at Donald Trump, and plenty of Republican influencers and politicians who obviously stoke these flames and engage, I would say, in the type of stochastic terrorism that we're used to seeing from our favorite tanky Twitch user. However, to me, this is not the same as gerrymandering or making edgy jokes where you have to meet what the other side is doing in order to still be in the game. I don't see how the left or liberals lose by not playing just as dirty in this type of game. I don't see how the left or liberal loses if they decide to turn down the rhetoric. Even if most of the responsibility for the rhetoric falls on the other side of the aisle, I don't see why this aspect also needs to be gamified when we're paying in human life for it. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Dev, welcome to the stream. What are your thoughts? You're muted on your end, sir.
It's time for the streets to run red with the blood of everyone. Let's go! Hi, how's it going, guys? I'm just fucking around.
What are your thoughts here?
My actual thoughts. Okay, so, jokes aside, I've noticed a pattern, okay? When you have a left-wing guy who attacks a right-wing guy, you'll see establishment Democrats offer condolences. Maybe they'll take the opportunity to shill for some new gun laws. Far-left communists over on Blue Sky, they'll cheer and clap and talk about how liberals deserve the bullet too. Right-wingers talk about wanting a civil war, and they want revenge. They want justice. But when a right-wing guy attacks a left-wing guy, you'll see establishment Democrats call for calm. They'll definitely shill for new gun laws. Far-left communists, they might be outraged, but they might also say, LOL, he was a lib, he was a traitor to the revolution. And then right-wingers, they invent these fucking conspiracy theories about how the attacker was not truly right-wing. He was a crypto-leftist, or he was a glowy or some shit. And there can be no real reconciliation unless the right deals with its own violence. And that's kind of weird to say when it was a right-winger who just got killed, but it is nonetheless the truth. And I guess we'll get into it as to why.
Yeah, we will. And last but certainly not least, Destiny, what are your thoughts here? Political violence.
Why do you say certainly not
about
least?
Yeah, we have a leader right now, the United States of America. His name's Donald Trump. If anybody has the responsibility to turn down the violence, it probably should be him, especially given that he's the one that pushes a lot of it. Seeing Charlie Kirk get exploded on Streamable over and over again is exactly the type of stuff that Republicans push for. It's exactly the type of stuff they want. You can tell by the way they respond to it. It's not a call for peace. It's a call for more and more and more violence. That violence just always seems more acceptable when it's not happening directly to you. If you have two people standing in front of a piece of paper doused in kerosene and both of them have a match, one person extinguishing their match is not going to prevent the paper from catching on fire. This weird game of saying the left needs to turn it down over and over and over again, we're like a decade into this insanity, and Donald Trump, even today, like people on Fox and Friends are begging him to call off the civil war that the other side keeps screaming for, and he refuses to do it. Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire and a ton of other large right-wing figures are literally calling for revenge, for retribution, for some type of war. The idea that the left shouldn't say anything or that the left needs to take the lead on this, civility is achieved when both sides agree to be civil. And if the right isn't agreeing to be civil, then the left is being amoral or immoral by trying to be civil. You shouldn't subject yourself to extinction when the right is calling for, a total destruction of your side and keeps saying you're at war.
Okay, and with that, I open up the floor. If anyone feels they're being talked over or needs to get a word in edgewise, just let me know. But other than that, let's get to the conversation.
Yeah, I'll go first. My first question for Destiny would be, if we had a clip of Trump today saying that it needs to be nonviolence and kind of honoring and lifting the spirit of Charlie Kirk and following it in his footsteps, would that change any of the analysis we're doing here?
If Donald Trump was making strong, disavowals of violence and saying everybody needs to turn it down, that would be very good. It would start to change things, yes.
Okay, so I don't want to do the clip game back and forth, but I just, you want to take my word for it, great. If not, we can do the clip game. Saw a clip of him today. I don't know if it was on the White House lawn, and I heard him explicitly saying, basically,
I've already seen the clip that you're talking about, and literally 5 seconds before the edited clip you've seen, he blames radical left Democrats. So no.
So then, in that spirit, then, I seem to recall back to the Biden Independence Day speech, which I agree was not as bad as people make it out to be, because he puts this caveat in there where he's saying, oh, it's not the whole Republicans, it's not the whole conservative movement, it's just those MAGA Republicans. And seemingly putting that caveat in there was enough to kind of quell people, or I guess get folks on the left to think, oh, look, he's not calling for violence. It's just those crazy MAGA Republicans.
I've watched the entire speech and I've read the transcript and I can link it to you. He's explicitly talking about people who denied the results of the 2020 election, a belief that over 80% of conservatives hold today. It is fucking insane, and he was 100% correct in his analysis.
And so you're saying there's a world of difference there then between Biden when he clarifies and says, oh, I'm just talking about MAGA Republicans, but then when Trump says, I'm just talking about radical left Democrats, they're saying that's different, those clarifications?
Biden was talking about people that were denying the outcome of the election. When Donald Trump says radical left Democrats, he's talking about every Democrat in the United States of America. Biden explicitly said afterwards, I don't even think the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. But he was explicitly talking about people that denied the results of the election, which is a view that most conservatives, a huge majority, hold today. That's absolutely corrosive to our democracy. This morning when Donald Trump was asked, what can we do, what should we do, Donald Trump says, take vengeance. And then the guy's like, at the ballot box? And he's like, well, yeah, voting, but that doesn't work anymore because it's all rigged. And that was what he said. It's like, oh, okay, so I guess we're just gearing up for a civil war.
Hello.
Okay. Go ahead, Tali, please.
I guess I just so what comes next then? So Destiny, I really am with you that this is to both sides, this is not an accurate portrayal of what's going on. I find myself very frustrated that so many people on the right can't bring themselves to also just de-escalate. And overwhelmingly, Democratic politicians and Democratic center lib whatever influencers have been calling this out and have seemed justifiably horrified. It kind of seems like it's only a certain segment of the left even that is really feeding this ugly machine, but why not denounce?
disenchanted the
as
+1
I think maybe
scepter.
Dev pointed out on Twitter earlier, I don't know if he said it in his opening, but these are people who are like barely voting with the Democrats anyway. They want violence against the libs as much as they want violence against, the
Who cares
evil
about
fascists.
him? We can talk about him later. The problem we have right now is the president of the United States is pushing us to civil war. Why the fuck would I talk about a bunch of irrelevant tankies that don't even vote?
Sure, and I agree. I agree the president is a problem too, but what I hear you saying is that essentially, like, the people like you, left of center people, libs also, can't back down from this fight because the other side isn't taking their lighter away. But then, so where is that going to get us? Then there's still
we
a
go to
fire.
civil war. We fight. What do you mean?
So then, okay, so we're gonna go ahead towards civil war? Like,
Sure.
What kind
civil
of
war
what
is
kind
better
of
than
solution is that?
extinction, right? What do you mean? What kind of a solution is that? It's up to the other
You say
side. You can't
extinction, but
choose to have both people go to civility. That's not a choice that one person can make. One person can choose to either fight or be made extinct. And right now, that's what, if the other side chooses to fight, those are your only options. That's all you can do, right?
You say made extinct, okay, but so you're leaving out the again, we're doing it's bizarre the analogies we're making here because we're kind of talking about rhetoric online, and then we're also talking about actual violence in real life. But
What do you think?
whole, like,
what do you mean? We're talking about rhetoric versus actual violence. What do you think politics
because
is?
what I'm saying, when you say I'm not trying to say that these things are entirely separate, but when you say we're facing facing possible extinction, do you mean that in a literal sense?
Eventually, it'll get there. Yeah, we're getting closer and closer. But yeah, if we've played this game over and over again. I'm sure most of you on this panel watch me go on Piers and have the same argument a year ago, where every time something happens, the right either makes a conspiracy theory, doesn't own their side, or they blame the left, or they want civil war. The left denounces and cucks out. Fucking Dodd just got fired for saying that Charlie Kirk's rhetoric played into this. He got fired from MSNBC. Give me a fucking break, right? And we're just gonna keep doing this over and over again. Well, Donald Trump is literally encouraging violence, like, over and over again. It's insane. It's insanity. Like, yeah, people should fight back until the other side stops. I mean, like, what else? Yeah, what else are you gonna do? Just sit there and just keep getting killed over and over and over again, figuratively, metaphorically, literally? I mean,
but I guess what just confuses me the most is, like, I feel like the most recent arc we just went down was the liberals need to kick out the crazy lefties because they don't help electorally, and they go out and do crazy stuff, and then they cheer each other on. And I know you can try and denounce it as, oh, it's 6-follower blue sky accounts. But, I mean...
We do need to denounce it, but that's not what this conversation is about. The only reason why those people have so much, like, say or sway is because of how dominant they are on social media, because the right likes to point them out all the time.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly, you can look at the political strategy of doing that. It is effective because when we can all agree, it's anger is what sells and whatnot. But I feel like...
No, it's anger that sells the Republican Party. The Republican Party is driven by spite and vitriol and hatred more today than at any point in my lifetime. It's just not even close to what it used to be like. Could you imagine Donald Trump being the president after, like, fucking 9/11 or something? Or, like, he's incapable. He's not effective as a leader. He's incapable of leading. Every conversation you have with a conservative is constantly saying, well, he's funny, LOL, the jokes are cool, who cares what he says? Like, he's not a good leader. This is what the conservatives have wanted the entire time.
But I guess that's what I'm just trying to get towards, and, like, I think we can all agree, right? It's when we look at these crazy individuals, and yes, it's anonymous 6-follower accounts on Blue Sky, but it's also non-anonymous, larger accounts. I can pull. I was screenshotting them today just to see if we need to go through them. It's pretty much everyone I saw where it's 500,000, million plus, and not just Hassan. It's other. I don't know how these people get their followings, but dishing out the same kind of rhetoric and cheering each other on. And so, if that's the crowd, I think that's the crowd that we should all agree is, like, a crowd that deserves no place in the
We all agree with
process.
that. They don't have a place in the political process. They're not in Congress. They're disavowed by all of our leadership. They don't exist except for in the Twitter retweets of conservatives that are trying to make them a bigger deal than they are.
So then explain to me how in the day after the election, when you're on there with Brian Tyler Cohen and all the other folks that were in that call, and you're specifically talking about we need to jettison these pro-pallies that threw the election for Trump, which, by the way, if I was on the left, that would piss me off. I'd probably kill myself if that was the case. If we're losing elections because these crazies think, yeah, do what they're going to do. But if that's not the fight that the internal fight the left is trying to go through right now, is we need to kick out these pro-pally, crazy, far left, just whatever term you want to use for it. But now it's like and of course we have more to learn about the shooter, but from what it seems, it's going to be someone who is obviously not a fan, and it would presumably puts them onto the left and puts them into this category. Why are we like focusing on
part of the left?
Hold on,
it's the right.
Did you vote for Donald Trump on all 3 times?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you watch Charlie Kirk's neck explode when the fucking blood came gushing out after he got shot?
Yeah.
Do you accept that you voted for that?
No.
Okay, then you're fucking delusional. There's no reason to have this conversation. I don't know
Because-
why. I don't
because
know
I
why.
don't-
Why are we talking about the radical left right now when the president of the United States, a guy who has done violent rhetoric over and over again, who has pardoned every single person that he can that's involved with violent crime on the right, you voted for this. This is what you wanted. This is what you want. This is what you voted for, and this is where we are now. Why the fuck are we talking about the far left? I don't give a fuck about Hassan or the far left right now. The leader of the United States, the ex-leader of the free world, I don't know what the fuck the United States does right now, will not disavow violence. When the people on Fox and Friends are begging him to disavow, he won't do it. Why the fuck are we talking about tankies?
I guess I just reject that we're pinning this exclusively on one person. I think you can understand this is a much broader problem.
No, it's
we
not.
can agree.
No, it's
we
not.
can agree. No,
No,
hold on.
you're
Let
lying.
me.
You're just lying.
We can agree Trump may have the biggest impact as being the president. I'll agree with you there. But this is just such a bigger problem
No,
than any
it's
one
not.
individual
The problem
person.
is Donald Trump. That's the problem. He's signing off on the violence on the right. There's a reason why 7 out of 10 of the largest protests in U.S. history have happened on his watch over the past 5 years of his presidency. Like, it's not a coincidence. At some point, you have to wake the fuck up and realize that the voting's not a meme, that his rhetoric isn't a joke, that all the memes about invading Chicago and deploying the National Guard and bombing Iran and calling it the Department of War and invading Greenland and Panama, at some point, you have to wake the fuck up and go, fuck. Maybe this shit is actually not a meme. Maybe it's not funny. Maybe I should probably rethink when I'm voting to watch people like Charlie Kirk get fucking assassinated on Streamable. Like, I don't know what it takes to wake you guys up to it. The fact that you want to come here and talk about tankies is just insane to me when your own leader of the United States of America won't just simply say, hey, everybody should stop killing people.
Deb, you wanted to say something real quick? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that it's probably easy to look back at 2016 or 2020 and say that this is a recent development of Trump's, but it's really not, right? I looked this up. I looked up the text of this. I wanted to make sure I wasn't just going off my memory. In August of 2016, when he was still running against Hillary, he said, I'll just read it exactly. He said, Hillary wants to essentially abolish the Second Amendment. And by the way, if she gets to pick her judges, there's nothing you can do, folks. Although the Second Amendment people, maybe there is, I don't know. Now that sounds like a veiled call to shoot Hillary if she fucking wins the presidency. So this is something that Trump's been doing for a while. It's not some new thing that he's been radicalized into or the right wing has been radicalized into. This has always been here. It was hidden with memes, and a lot of people fell for it when it was hidden with memes. But it's always been here.
So I guess my question then is, if you think that that's the case and that Donald Trump is pushing us to civil war and that we really can't de-escalate, what next? What should we do?
Well, it's not going to be a civil war. I disagree with Destiny on that. It's not going to be a civil war. It's going to be more like Italy's Years of Lead. It's going to be more like Ireland's The Troubles, where you're going to have like 10 years, maybe 20 years of sectarian violence that's essentially random, and then things will calm down eventually after basically the revolutionary people age out of the system. Like, whenever you see, like, it happened in Spain, it happened in Portugal, whenever you see countries go through violence like this, you don't really get to de-escalate. You just have to work through it. It fucking sucks, but here you are.
Well, heck, it was the 60s and 70s here, right?
Yeah, but it wasn't as bad as the Years of Lead in Italy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Go ahead, Tali, please.
Am I just hearing a prescription then from you, Dev, also of like essentially accelerationism? Like it's gonna get bad. There's no way to de-escalate. So
We're not. It's accelerating. It's not acceleration like we're accelerating it. Donald Trump is accelerating it. There's nothing we can do to stop it. You can't decelerate from one side.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
So the only option is to
fight
fire with fire.
And hope they stop. Yeah.
I guess, like, fight in what way do you mean, Destiny?
Whatever way. I don't know. Whatever way people want to. What do you mean? What do you think is the solution? What do you think would happen if the Democrats were to disavow? Tell me what you think would happen if the Democrats were to disavow, like they've been doing for the past 10 years.
Democrats, right? They are disavowing.
And what's happened?
I guess, like, my problem is, I'm not saying things have gotten better. Obviously, I'm not saying things have gotten better, but I just don't see how, like, saying, well, if the right's gonna do whatever they want, I guess the left should do whatever they want too. I don't see how that makes anything better.
Aren't you? You're a huge, like, pro-Israel person, right?
Yes.
Should Israel just lay down all their arms when Hamas invades and let them take over? Why not? Why do they keep contributing to the violence by fighting back?
No, because Hamas is making the everyday life of Israeli civilians puts that in jeopardy, right? So if I felt that like literally my life was in jeopardy right now, walking down the streets as a liberal or as a gay person, that might be a different scenario. I don't feel like we're actually there yet.
What does it take? What city do you live in?
I don't want to get there.
When Donald Trump is
what?
deploying the National Guard to D.C. for crime purposes, when Donald Trump is using the National Guard against governor's consents in California, he's sending the Marines down there. When Donald Trump is deporting people sometimes at random, when he's invoking the Alien Enemies Act, like at what point are you like, maybe this is probably not a good thing. Maybe this is kind of unsafe.
I think we can say all of those things are not good things and that they're unsafe, and I don't know why the answer is, again, so we should just be just as violent and disregarding of the Constitution, etc., as the right. I don't know. I don't see why that's the...
Because the alternative is just extinction.
That, again, just feels like just extreme hyperbole.
What do you mean? What part is extreme hyperbole? Is Trump driving more violence or not? Is Trump?
He doesn't think that this is going to end. Yes, he is. His rhetoric.
Trump is driving extreme violence. Trump will never disavow violence on his side. But the opposite of that, he's actually pardoned every single person he could that's been involved in violence on his side, right?
Every single person's probably a stretch, but certainly.
All the J6ers, at least, and the people that were convicted of seditious conspiracy, and everybody involved in his campaigns that have lied on his behalf and helped to do.
It's not a point that I'm trying to fight.
Okay, so he's done that. He continues to signal to people that violence is okay. He's talked about using the military to go to cities, whether the governors or the mayors like it or not. Like at what point do we wait for the soldiers to start shooting and they're like, wow, guys, I think maybe telling people to bring the temperature down, maybe that wasn't enough.
So then if we're at the point though where it's extinction, it's fight or extinction that you're saying this is the only two options on the left right now, I guess this direct question, is someone justified in killing Donald Trump?
We're not gonna do I'm not Fed posting right here. We're not doing that. But if we were on a different platform, maybe we could do a little bit of... I already got like 20 FBI agents. I already got 20 FBI agents just watching all my shit all the time, so...
Okay, so it's hard to have this conversation without at least... Oh, sorry, I'm muted on my end. It's hard to have this conversation without at least in a video game or hyperbolically or something discussing this, and I understand we don't want to...
Well, stop here. Well, not in a video game. Hold on, wait. Can I ask a question? Real question. Hold on. For Gen Z Attorney and Telly, do you recognize that Donald Trump's statements today, increase the chances of me getting fucking murdered at the next event that I do?
Are we saying...
Donald Trump today was asked to he was asked multiple times on Fox and Friends. They asked him, "Will you tell people on the right who want revenge that they shouldn't do that?" He wouldn't say no. He said the opposite. He said, "Well, we could fight at the ballot box, but all the voting is rigged." So do you acknowledge that Donald Trump is saying things right now that directly lead to an increased chance of me being in the next video for my next event?
Yeah.
I would probably agree too, but is it more so of an impact than a guy picking up a gun and going and killing Charlie Kirk at a public event? What's more weighing in on that equation?
I don't know how that's relevant. I don't know if we can control every single individual person necessarily, but the President of the United States is the one driving the rhetoric right now for political assassinations.
And it's right now 100% purely responsive and reactionary to the fact that someone took a gun and went and killed Charlie Kirk at a public space
It's not right now. It's been since the quote that Dev had came from, I think that was that before he was even elected? Or was it right after he was elected?
Yeah, but
So how are you asking me? It was August 2016. August 2016.
Okay, so how are you asking me we should turn down the rhetoric when there is a guy on all major media right now who's the president of my country who is saying things that is increasing the likelihood of me getting assainated? Why the fuck would I have any...
Because your response to it increases the likelihood that you'll be assassinated as well, right?
I don't think so.
Into the narrative.
What? Because you're one of the good ones?
And let me explain, if I may. So when you give a reality to a lot of the right-wingers who say the leftists just want to fight us, the left just wants to go to war with us, the left are hunting us, and when you come on stream and you play into that rhetoric and saying, I'm not going to apologize, I'm not going to de-escalate, And you know what? Maybe there is no other option than going to civil war or something. Maybe we got to do what we got to do. What you are doing is you are justifying and you're feeding into their paranoid schizophrenia, basically.
No, their paranoid schizophrenia is they have a whole media apparatus that is designed to highlight insane takes on the left. Half the shit that gets clipped and wide and spotlighted is like a 2-second cut from any fucking shit I say. Half the people, forget me, don't even think about me. Look at them trying to clip fucking, the Gen Z attorney guy just did it right here, talking about Biden's speech. These are like the most docile people when you listen to people like, when you listen to the right talk about, I just watched a video of a compilation on Facebook. The right is talking about the violent rhetoric of Chuck Schumer, of Kamala Harris, of Joe Biden. These are like the most, are you serious? These are the go-tos? Because they're saying things like, our nation is in chaos. Give me a fucking break. Like, these motherfuckers will find anything they can to spotlight to try to make it seem like there's some genocidal intent on the left. And then meanwhile, the left has to disavow over and over and over and over and over again, and the president does nothing. So fuck it. It's stupid.
Didn't John Roberts have to come out and explicitly call out Chuck Schumer by name for his comments directed at the Supreme Court? Like 5 years ago?
I don't know. What was his comment? What did he say about it?
It was something about like the Supreme Court will weep the whirlwind, something like that. We could get the direct quote if someone wants to get it. But John Roberts is like the most tries to be neutral, fair to everybody, processes everything guy. There's a lot of people on the right hate the way he is Chief Justice over the court. For him to come out and expressly condemn the Senate, I think at the time Senate Majority Leader for his commentary, because
Chuck Schumer said that the Supreme Court would reap the whirlwind.
I'll get the quote.
I guess while he's getting the quote,
I've got it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. He said, "I want to tell you, is it Gorsuch? I don't know.
Gorsuch.
Gorsuch. I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind. You will pay the price. You don't know. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions." That's what he said.
Okay.
If that's our standard for violent rhetoric, do you acknowledge, honestly, that on the conservative side, I could find that 1,000 times over?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to die. Here's the thing.
Well, if you say yes to that, then I'm not even going to, I can't even hear Chuck Schumer then. It's noise at that point. It's the overwhelming amount is coming from the conservative side. Why would I even say anything about that comment by Schumer if that's the standard that we're going to go by?
So it's just the left and Democrats are just infinitely shielded then, because you can always find a counterexample on the right.
They're not infinitely shielded. It's just not relevant to the overall conversation. What did Schumer say the day after? Quote, "I should not have used the words I used yesterday. They did not come out the way I intended to." Can you find me a single example of Donald Trump apologizing for anything he has said that ratchets up the violent rhetoric ever? One example ever.
I can't put Donald Trump, but the example I keep hearing brought up is the Minnesota state lawmakers and how the main person that was making jokes was Mike Lee, senator from Utah.
Sure. And Donald Trump said disgusting comments as well. Yeah.
About Mike Walls, though, or Tim Walls, right?
In regards to the Senate shooting, yeah.
When I was looking up, all I could see was basically him saying he didn't call Tim Walls, but that keeps being, the reason I'm bringing this up is because that keeps getting brought up as basically Exhibit A of recent politically targeted violence, which currently, again, I'm not going to dispute. The guy was a right winger and he attacked left winger. But the only evidence example that we're pointing to of like elected official that was making a joke was a senator, which is bad. I'm not going to agree with it. But then he walked it back the next day. So just by the standard you just laid out, if someone walks it back the next day, then it's all hunky dory. We're cool then.
Did Mike Lee walk that comment back?
He did.
I think he did actually. Yeah.
Okay. He might have. So he might have walked that comment back. But I would argue that Schumer and Mike Lee's comments were far different. Do you think that Schumer had a like malicious or violent intent when he said you'll pay for this or whatever?
Probably not, no.
Do you think that Mike Lee's intent was a little bit more sinister or jokey when he's doing a nightmare on Wall Street? When a senator just get killed? I'm not saying that he's necessarily advocating for violence, but...
I think him trying to turn it into an attack on Tim Walls was certainly ill-advised. I don't see if there's a joke I missed where he was directly making fun of the victims.
He had that was in quote. The quote was a picture of the shooter in the mask.
With what? Saying what? Nightmare on Wall Street?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's an attack. It's not an attack on the people, on the victims. It's trying to make a political attack, an ill-advised, ill-timed political attack. But you can still see it's still a difference in kind there, though, right?
I want to quote. Did Mike Lee walk it back, or did he just delete his post?
He deleted it and he put out an official statement through his office saying, I could find the official quote, but it was a denunciation of, like, it was what I said was wrong.
Okay. While they find that, though, my concern here, Destiny, with the things that you've said, at least on this panel, which is, I feel, are far more extreme than what even you were tweeting about. Let me ask you this. Do you think that telling people that, hey gang, there's really nothing we can do, we can't de-escalate, the right and Trump are out to get you, and they want to bring us to civil war, and then let's say tomorrow someone picks up a gun and goes out and tries to assassinate Trump again, do you not feel at least somewhat that you have been responsible for that, or you would feel responsible for something?
Maybe, but
that?
like, let's back up for 1 second, okay, and not be the like, I don't even want to say optics cucked, because you're not even being optics cucked, we're being delusional. What is anything that you just said leading up to that last statement, were any of those statements incorrect? Is Trump basically coming after people? Is Trump basically advocating for his audience to go after people?
What is incorrect? What
was anything that you said?
That if we de-escalate, that we're going to be led to extinction.
Okay, so you think that? Do you think
that is incorrect?
You think that the left can de-escalate right now?
Yes, absolutely. I think the left can, at least from their part, turn the temperature down in such a way that we are more likely.
Do you think that the left has been
control? Hold on, let me finish. To take control back of the House and the Senate in 2026, and also win in 2028 electorally. Because remember, there is more than just two players to this prisoner's dilemmas game. There are other factors involved, including a whole host of people who are watching what we do and judging accordingly. And I feel that if we do de-escalate and the right does not, that those other players, the electorate, will give us the W.
Really? Did that happen last year?
No, but it happened in 2022. It happened in 2020.
Yeah.
It happened in 2018. Like,
I agree with that.
Yeah, sure. And in 2020, first of all, also, you don't agree with that because Donald Trump tried to literally coup the government and you still voted for him. So I don't know why you're saying I agree with that, okay? The fact that Donald Trump engaged in the behavior that he did in 2020, didn't make a single adjustment or tweak whatsoever to his electoral strategy through 2024, and then won the election, shows that something is like fundamentally broken in our media or political apparatus or in the way we're communicating with each other. This idea that one side can de-escalate, I just don't think that's ever been true at any point in human history. I don't think it's been true in our recent history. I don't understand where this idea that if one, like, I feel like the left has largely been de-escalating, right? The peak bad was probably, I guess, like the BLM riots, which Biden and Kamala had to disavow in order to run.
It was the Chaz stuff that was peak bad. Chaz was pretty fucking bad.
Chaz was bad, but I'd say like the BLM riots altogether is like larger on the national stage or whatever. The Chaz stuff was cringe. But like Donald Trump and the Republicans have just gone higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. They show no indication whatsoever of turning anything down. Every single right-leaning piece of violence gets blamed on the left anyway. So if they keep ratcheting it up and more right-wing violence happens, they're just going to say it was caused by a leftist regardless.
Yep. I mean, whenever I talk to my right-wing friends who are solidly in the right-wing bubble, like people who are decent, that if you broke them out of that media sphere, they would, the scales would fall from their eyes, but they're still in it. Whenever I talk to them, their view is always that, oh, it was actually a leftist who did that last attack. It was actually a leftist who did that. It's actually the deep state. It's a glowy. And it's like, well, even if the left stopped doing violence, they'd be blamed for the violence anyway. So you can't de-escalate in that media environment. It doesn't work.
However, the reason that they say, and this has been done with the Charlie Kirk stuff, I think Shuan had said, right, even if it turns out that the killer was some kind of Groyper guy, right, and not really a leftist or some kind of schizo that had an incoherent political ideology, they will see the celebrations of many on the left, right, and it's a lot. Right, and people who were making memes, making jokes, going out, just saying crazy shit, and then they'll see Destiny come on and say, "Well, we can't de-escalate. We might as well prep for war, gang, because otherwise we're going to go extinct." And they're going to use that to justify to normies that we're right and they're wrong. And I think that if we take out as much as we can of that equation, right, I think that we have a much better chance at getting to a civil
works-cited crack pipe. Do you think Mike Walsh watched my stream before he made his call to arms decision that the Daily Wire retweeted? Do you think that Donald Trump watched my stream before he went on Fox and Friends this morning when they were begging him for a shred of humanity to call down the violence and he refused to do so? Are these guys all...
Do you not think you have any influence on these things? Because
I think
they
I do
don't
a
hear
bit.
from you directly.
They don't care.
But they hear it indirectly.
It's called for the lawyer guy here, we call it pretextual. They have the conclusion that they want, and they will find anybody to justify it. They want violence, and they're going to say the left is causing violence. If it's not me, they'll find some random Twitter account. If it's not some random Twitter account, they'll find some random Blue Sky account. They do this even with irrelevant shit. What was the Sydney Sweeney shit where all the right-leaning people were like, oh my god, the left is freaking out about this. And meanwhile, no one on the left even fucking cared. They can fabricate whatever issue they want. Today, I just learned that it was apparently 25 million illegal immigrants that came in when I thought it was 20 or 15 and 10. And who knows what the investment is up to now. And now the stock market matters, and it didn't matter before when it was going down. Like, every single thing that conservatives are doing are just putting this false reality in front of the eyes of their constituents. And you're saying, well, if we just turn the temperature down, these guys can't even perceive a temperature. How could we turn it down? How would that even matter? It hasn't helped at all so far.
Because I'm not trying to appeal to those crazies. I'm trying to appeal to the normie electorate, which does make judgments based on these things, based on the signal-to-noise ratio, right? When the signal-to-noise ratio is mostly noise, then a lot of them just disregard it. I don't think the Sydney Sweeney thing had a big
crazies are about
effect on
half the country right now.
I disagree.
You're just wrong. Donald Trump won the popular vote in the last election after trying to insurrect the government.
Not everyone who voted for Trump is part of this crazy cohort, though. There is a significant group within the Trump voters, the MAGA cultists, that you will never reach, and I agree with you, are these crazy cultists. But to say that is most or all of Trump voters in 2024,
Sure, then it's just as bad, but it's on the other end of the coin where they just don't care about it then. In which case, it doesn't matter anyway.
It's not that they don't care. It's that they care also about what the left is doing. And I agree with you that
they don't care about what the left is doing. They care about the right is saying the left is doing. Please correct yourself. Nobody here is going to... You're not fighting left lawmakers that are doing shit like this. Like, simultaneously, the left... Like, I swear to God, I've probably heard you make these same complaints on these platforms where people are like, "What's wrong with the left? They're feckless. They don't do anything. They're politically ineffective. They won't stand up. All they do is they hold up signs in Congress." And then the next day, when Donald Trump, the Republicans, say something different, it's like, "Oh my God, the left is calling for violence everywhere. They're crazy. They're doing the most unhinged shit ever." And then tomorrow, it's going to be, "Man, the left is so weak and losers. They don't fucking do anything ever." Like, it's whatever the Republicans tell us we're supposed to feel about the left that day is what we end up feeling about the left that day. Why don't we look at what the actual thought leaders, what the actual elected politicians say and do, rather than what Twitter is telling us?
See, but I think this is the game that gets played, though, where it's like, okay, it's easy, and I'll give credit to all the Democrats who've come out and said, yes, political violence is bad. Okay, you get your props for that. But right now is about the easiest time for someone on the left to come out and say that, because guess what? If you don't say that, you're seen as the one that's fostering and probably getting this type of violence. It'd be like taking any sort of attack that the left may do the right may do on the left, and now all of a sudden the entire discourse is about how the left needs to tone down their rhetoric so less right-wingers go after hunting lefties.
If the environment right now has so many huge figures on the right calling for civil war, why the fuck would I look to the left to disavow people on Twitter?
So, I mean, and I guess I disagree with this framing too, as far as like, yes, I see the calls for war. It's time to fight back. But honestly, I don't even know what that means. I'd love for someone to explain to me, war against who? What does war even look like? Are these genuine calls for violence, calls for war? Or is this just more LARPing, cosplaying, saying it's time to fight? You know, fight, fight, fight. Was Trump saying fight, fight, fight after getting shot? Was that him saying, okay, now it's time to go to war? It's time to literally fight? I just, without identifying, we're getting into some legal ideas here, without identifying with specificity who's being referred to, who's being talked about. I'm sure you're familiar, the incitement test in Brandenburg. It's without being able to specifically define a specific call to action with imminence as well. Imminence that this person needs to be fought, needs to be thrown out, XYZ needs to be done to them. There's so many elements at play here that are at play for a reason in a court of law, because they matter if we're going to try and prove this stuff, but we're just kind of playing real fast and loose with, okay, if someone says it's time to go to war against far left communist radical lefts, and then it's like,
Yeah,
I've not seen enough specificity or outcomes.
This is the game in real time. I don't think you even believe anything you just said. I think you know that you're playing a game right now because we have no problem trying to parse through the statements of every random word that Joe Biden says, or we can remember these specific quotes about "you'll reap the whirlwind" that Schumer says and apologizes for the next day. But now, when it comes time for people like Mike Walsh to say, "We're done talking. We're done. We tried polite discourse and it didn't work."
Matt
and now
Walsh.
we're gonna fight. Now we have no idea what that means. Now it's, well, who knows? These are vague calls, and who knows what it means when they say.
What elected position does Matt Walsh hold?
He's one of the largest alternative media figures on the right.
Okay, but you are one of the largest media figures on the left. You are.
I'm an alternative media figure, number one. Number two, I've said this
you
multiple
just said
times.
Matt Walsh was an alternative media figure, too.
Sure, I don't have a direct connection to the president like the fucking Daily Wire does. Do you think I'm endorsed by the DNC or by the Democrats? But number two, here's a key difference, because if you wanted to make this equivalent, that's fine. The difference between me and Walsh right now is I would say, hey, if we should turn down the temperature, I 100% would disavow both sides. He will never say that. Do you acknowledge that? That he will never admit that there is any violence on his side that needs to be toned down. That's coming from the president of the United States.
That's why he's a liar, and we shouldn't base our behavior on how he behaves. We shouldn't take our morals.
You don't base
from
your
Matt
behavior on
Walsh.
how he if somebody kills somebody in self-defense, is that basing your behavior on how the other person behaves?
Okay, we're not talking about physically violent actions.
We just watched a guy get assassinated. What do you mean we're not talking about physical violence?
Are you calling for physical violence? I don't think you are.
I'm saying that it's not the same when you're responding to another person. I'm responding to the Republicans. That's not the same as doing it out of nowhere.
Who has done physical violence to you that you are responding to?
To me, I guess, I hope that I survive my assassination attempt so I can come back and go, look, Wick, I told you. So I'm on my fucking breathing device. What kind of a question is that?
You bleed out, and I will say you were right, Destiny. You were right all along.
This is retarded. This is not. This can't be a serious response.
Of course, that was not a serious response. I was joking. But what I am not joking about, what I am serious about, is that this idea, right, that the rhetoric is going to ultimately lead to some kind of physical altercation between the right and the left is something that the right is pushing hard right now because accelerationists on the right are pushing hard right now. And it seems to be you're playing along. You are helping them do it.
Was the North helping the South when they wanted to go along with secession and the Civil War?
No, but we are not in a situation we are at civil war. You're not there.
But the president is deploying the military to cities and tweeting memes about it. What is that if not a comment? Definitionally, yes! What do you mean? The President of the United States taking the military and using it for law enforcement measures against radical leftist Democrat mayors? That is definitionally civil war. When you're using your military for law enforcement purposes against the will of the governors of those states and the mayors of those cities, yeah, what else would that be?
I thought they're not able to work in a law enforcement capacity, and that it's basically a waste of money and resources because they are essentially a deterrent, even though
that's true. They're not. They're also not allowed to. They're not allowed to deploy the National Guard without the consent of the governors, but they did it in California anyway.
Yeah. That seems to be a question that the courts need to adjudicate.
And oh my God! The courts need to adjudicate. We need to have the courts ask the question of whether or not the fact that you would even say that that we need to wait for the courts to weigh in on whether President Donald Trump can send the military to the states to do law enforcement. Like, what? How do you have so much credit for this guy? It's fucking crazy to me.
I'm not. Well, no, I'm saying in order to fight back on that note. Is what I'm saying.
No, the fact that that's even a normal question is unhinged. It's like watching Trump rape a 9-year-old girl and say we need to find out if those were tears of joy before we find out if something wrong was done. This is an unhinged statement. That's a crazy statement to make.
I don't see how those things are analogous at all.
Because you're asking me, do I need to wait for the Supreme Court to tell me if the President of the United States posting memes about sending the military to do law enforcement in Chicago is a bad thing?
No, I didn't say anything about the memes. I'm talking about the actual specific action, a way to counter that, as opposed to saying, well, fuck yeah, it is civil war, so if Trump's going to send in the National Guard, then we got to send in our crazies. A way to counter that is to actually try to work within the system that we have. That, yes, Trump and people on the right are trying to deteriorate. I agree.
Work how within the system that he's already shown a flagrant disregard for? He doesn't play in the system.
Well, like Wick said, work to appeal to the normies who don't want to see this type of violence and who do not want civil war, and work to get elected. The election will be coming up in a year's time.
Okay, so hopefully we can edge out another 50-member Senate
where Biden passed a record amount of legislation, doesn't matter, no one gave a fuck, where Biden had to come in after another destroyed
Biden's
Republican economy.
is obviously separate to the severe cultural rot in our society.
That's caused by conservatives. They are rotting the culture and showing you the cultural rot they want to talk about. That's why prior to the election, every American in the country, people in fucking Michigan and Pennsylvania are worried about illegal immigrants, and now the problem is magically gone. No one cares about it anymore.
What we are seeing in real time is what's called reciprocal radicalization, where each side's extreme points to the other side's extreme to justify their extreme actions. And when you are helping them do that,
the difference is that the extreme that they're pointing to.
Ally and participant.
No, you're so wrong, and it's such a retarded thing to say. The extreme people on the left are people like Hassan Piker. The extreme people on the right are people like Donald Trump.
Bro, you're calling for fucking civil war.
I'm not. It's a one-sided thing.
It's the only option.
If one side wants to push for war, then what do?
You're saying the two options are civil war or extinction.
If the other side won't de-escalate, yes, right now, do you think that right now, if the Democrats said, hey, Trump, we're willing to disavow all violence if you do, who do you think is the roadblock there?
Okay, well, it's a hard hypothetical. You're saying the Democrats, are you talking about like a thought leader of the Democrats? Is it a...
That's the problem. We're conflating a lot of these things.
I'm not. I haven't conflated them at all. You guys are, to be clear. I'm talking about the elected people who represent the party on both sides. Sometimes you guys want to talk about the Twitter on the left, but I'm talking about like the elected lawmakers.
Well, sure. Okay, so we are all conflating these things though, right? Because the problem does not seem to be Democratic elected officials. By and large, they are not part of this problem of stoking violent rhetoric and cheering on violence and anything like this. It is obviously a problem online in the media sphere, and a lot of young people, maybe the people who are getting radicalized right now, they are not really listening to. They're not listening to They know your name before they know the name of their elected official locally. And the same is true on the right. And you're right. The alt media space on the right is worse than Trump's rhetoric, frankly, like by a large magnitude. And so we do need to worry about what the online cultures look like, or what the non-elected official culture in this country looks like, because there is severe radical polarization going on between citizens. And you can say that the most jarring and explicit stuff is coming from the right, and I'll agree with you that it's coming from more mainstream right than mainstream left, but it does come from the left, and people are not just reacting to nothing, even if they are overreacting, even if they are painting with a huge brush, which yes, the right is one to do, to call everyone on the left, including all the liberals and the moderates and everything. They use liberal as the derogatory word, but yes, they are painting with too broad a brush. But it almost
everybody
feels like
on the left
I guess we should just prove them right.
If everybody, that's not proving anybody right to act in a defensive manner against a side that is calling for the eradication of your political movement in the United States.
A defensive manner doesn't seem to be what you're calling for.
Number one, that's literally where we're at this point, okay? Number one. Number two, if all of the left mainstream people disavowed as hard as they fucking could, then the temperature would go from 0 to 100, it would go from 100 to 98. If Donald Trump just on his own, were to bring it down.
That's not the problem.
Sure, Donald Trump.
Okay, so hold on, let me contend with this. I agree. If Donald Trump just on his own were to bring down the rhetoric, it would have more of an impact than elected Democratic officials bringing down the rhetoric.
And everyone in the mainstream media on the left.
Sure, okay. Sure. The problem really is with our online culture and the alt media and all of this stuff, in my humble opinion. So I agree. Donald Trump completely changing his tune would bring the rhetoric down more than public elected officials or the mainstream media on the left bringing down their temperature. But I think, and this is not a testament to the right, unfortunately, but a lot of the extremist right, for lack of better terms, they don't give a shit about Trump at this point. Like they kind of virtue signal towards him because that's kind of part of their base, and they know that that's like how they got into this sphere and that's how they gained their prominence. But a lot of the actual scary right is already beyond Trump. A lot of them.
But those people they're a small percentage of people. MAGA is a huge percentage.
I don't think they're irrelevant. No, I don't think they're irrelevant.
They're irrelevant compared to Donald Trump. There will always be radicals. I don't care about grapers or neo-Nazis or whatever. MAGA is the issue. On J6, that was MAGA. That wasn't grapers. That was MAGA. That was Donald Trump and the Republican Party. Stephen Miller is the deputy chief of staff of the White House, is trying to say that the entire Democratic Party should be labeled a domestic terrorist organization. This is not a problem with neo-Nazis or the extremists on the right and left. That's not. It's evil. It's Donald Trump and his administration and the Republican Party.
Okay, so right. They're not just a fringe, and I heard you talking about this the other day, and this is also true that the more extremists on the right have gained more prominence. They've sort of infiltrated the moderate wing of the left, for better or for worse. We could perhaps agree that it's for worse. But in that way, they are connected to MAGA. They have a stronger connection to MAGA than the fringe left has to the.
No. MAGA is not
left.
infiltrated. MAGA is the extremism. MAGA is the cancerous rot.
Yeah, I don't know that that's.
Yeah, hold on.
Wait. You don't know if that's what? No, wait. Follow through on that. You don't know if that's true.
I just don't think that's like an accurate analysis of what we're looking at on the right now.
So when Donald Trump calls for people, when Donald Trump himself plays into all of the violent rhetoric, what do we call that? Stephen Miller is like literally fucking Goebbels over here on fucking Twitter. What are you talking? Like every single person that's surrounding this guy is an extremist lunatic. Steve Bannon was in the White House picking out senators like Roy Moore to run for election, or fucking Roger Stone is one of the crazy motherfuckers online is working this guy's election campaign. Or like, how many examples do you want? These are people that are close to Trump, that are part of the fucking White House. Elon Musk, you talk about like the horribleness of extremist rhetoric online. A lot of this was driven by the fact that Donald Trump didn't want to see people banned from social media anymore. Elon Musk bought X and made it a worse place. This guy was in the White House. He was Trump's right hand man for fucking 10 months, and he got him to talk about genocide in South Africa against white people. Like, why are you pretending that it's like some crazy small neo-Nazi group infiltrating MAGA? It's not. MAGA is the problem. MAGA is the problem. It is MAGA.
But also, too, if I could just make one observation, I'll be quick.
Go ahead real quick, and then Dev, and then I have things to say because this has gone way further than I thought it would, but go ahead, please.
So, we're in this conversation here, and obviously me and Tally here are supposed to be the champions for the right wing. And I feel like we've been trying as hard as we possibly can to make the concessions where appropriate, to say, yes, this is rhetoric that's going too far on the right, which, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the exact prescription that's being made right now by you, Destiny, that the right is the ones that need to come together and tone down their side. And granted, I'm not the president, I'm not Stephen Miller, so I can only do what I can with the people around me. And I'm doing my damnedest by coming in spaces like these and the people around me in my circle. I feel like Tally's doing the same thing. But it's difficult to make the case when clips like the clips that will come out of this very conversation where we're trying to build the bridge there and say, yes, it is a both sides need to de-escalate type thing, and all we're getting back is no, it's 100% on the right, it's all on the right. And there's just it's so hard to make this argument to try and bring us back to sanity when
your concessions, we need concessions from the President of the United States. Your concessions don't matter.
That's what I get, but when I see on Piers Morgan, you made it was a correct point that if Dave Rubin and that other chick were not going to denounce J6, then you're like, then I don't care what they have to say, even though Piers was saying it. But Piers asked you if they were to denounce it, would you denounce the shooting on Trump? You said sure. Yeah, I think you said I'll think about it. And then Dave Rubin came out and said, well, we don't know exactly what happened there. And then you're like, okay, yeah, F these guys. I'm not conceding anything. So here you have two people that actually are the ones willing to make these concessions, and it's
Wait,
not
they
getting
just
us
said they
anywhere.
weren't making any concessions. You just quoted it back at me. They didn't make concessions. Dave Rubin could have made me look really bad there.
People in front of you.
In that conversation, right? I'm talking about the people in this conversation.
Well, those guys were larger. This was on Piers. It was a larger media thing. Dave Rubin is a larger media figure.
For sure.
Dave Rubin has bought into the conservative messaging apparatus, though. This is another guy who's connected, to Trump on a fucking direct mental line or whatever. Like, I guess all of the MAGA media sphere is.
And we can certainly identify that, the incentive structure is to say the crazy stuff, because that's what gets you the likes, gets you the clicks. That's just a problem that everyone's going to have to contend with.
It's not. Why do you keep saying that? Why doesn't it happen on the left then, in the lawmaker and in the mainstream media segment?
So you don't think there are large voices on the left that are saying, basically advocating, maybe not expressly for violence, but they're doing the, political violence is bad, but he was a fascist and a Zionist, and I'll just leave it at that.
On the mainstream media and for elected officials, this is not happening on the left. It is happening on the right. Why is it one and not the other? It's just things get clicks.
I agree, but mainstream media and elected officials have such little influence on
What are you talking about? That's not true at all. Mainstream media is massively consumed by a ton of people. Maybe not in our space particularly, but Fox News is the most popular cable news network. Is what are some of the most
about on the left? We're talking about on the left. We were specifically talking about the influence in the Democratic Party and people on the left.
Real quick, Tally, I can think of exactly one elected Democratic official who engages in the same type of rhetoric, and that's Maxine Waters. That's it. All right. On the right, it's every single fucking person.
And if you want to talk about alternative media on the left, all the alternative media on the right is also doing the exact same as the left, probably worse.
I agree. I completely agree. Yes, literally, definitely worse.
So
I
then
agree.
why would you,
Or at
what is
least
the incentive?
in larger numbers.
So on the left, you can't, if you disavow, all you're doing
The
is...
incentive is I don't want us all to die, and I want the further polarization of this country, because I do think, which is something that you don't seem ready to acknowledge right now, even though I know you feel this way about the extreme left. The extremes in this country are fueling each other. It is not just one side completely
It's
making
one
things
side.
up. Even if one side
It's one
is,
side.
it's not.
It
It's
is.
just not.
It is. It just is. It just is.
It's not.
It is.
It's not.
It's
and
like
you know it's not,
80% one
because you
side,
spent
Tally. It's like
years-
80% one side.
80%, meaning, what do you mean by that, Tev?
It's 80% right wingers and like 20% left wingers at this point, because
80%
all the left
of
wingers,
right wingers fanning the flames or being crazy.
yeah, they're fueling what's going on. I would put the responsibility
I agree with
80-20, right, left. Well, hold on.
In terms
If
of,
it's
like,
80%, if it's 80% the right's fault, then there's only so much damage control you can do by handling the left. You must also handle the right.
Especially when you can't even control all of the left. Like, how many times have I disavowed tankies and everybody in the mainstream media has had to disavow the left and fight with the left? Like, fuck, there's a huge fight in the Democratic Party right now over whether they even want to endorse Mamdani. But that's not enough. It's never enough. You're acting like
At this point, we're not.
Okay, so-
hold on, just real quick. We're not asking for a disavowal at this point. At this point, we've accelerated, and now we aren't just. I'm not disavowing it. It's like they're coming to kill us all, and we need to get ready for war. Is what you're saying on my panel. They're coming to make us
that's
extinct.
what the right is saying, and I'm saying we should be ready for it.
There are
Is what I'm saying
other
incorrect?
ways.
Is what I'm saying incorrect?
Yes.
Oh, wait, so the right is not. I couldn't show you tweet after tweet after tweet of them saying this
I
is
can
war,
show you
civil
tweets,
war.
but
Here we
if you
go.
think that is the majority of the right, you're wrong. That is not representative of the majority of the right wing in America. It is representative of a crazy few that are online that have loud voices and a lot more influence than
hold
they
on.
should in the Trump administration.
In that case, I will concede my entire point if you can show me a single alternative or mainstream large media figure on the right who's saying the right needs to bring down the rhetoric as well.
Okay,
and it
what do
can't
you
be
count as
somebody
large?
like Massey who's being excoriated by the right now for fighting Trump on this, because now they all hate him for saying that.
Sir, well, you're putting me in an impossible position because everyone who does that is large on the right in these spaces, is going to be excoriated
That's the
by
whole
those
point.
loud
But
few
listen,
voices.
but listen,
Just
no, no,
like
but listen,
on the
listen to
left.
what you're saying. Listen to what you're saying. You're telling me that we have to.
Vanguard is extorting Pete Buttigieg, right? Doesn't mean Pete Buttigieg isn't trying to turn down the temperature or do these things where you have Vanguard and other fucking crazy lefties are always going to excoriate them. Yes. So,
But the difference is every single mainstream Democrat is disavowing them. And on the right, not only can we not get them to disavow Trump, they're disavowing the people that are disavowing Trump. So you're saying that on the left, we have a problem with disavowing extremists. We don't, by the way. We all disavow them, and we've done it over and over again. The mainstream and the alternative left like me do it over and over and over again, and you've seen this from top to bottom. On the right, it's not even that they won't disavow Trump. It's that they will disavow people that are disavowing Trump. Donald Trump made a joke about putting Liz Cheney in front of a firing squad because she was on the J6 committee. Trump should talk this guy more than any other elected official in the United States because he hates how much. Do you see the disparity and the problem there? And you're like, but Steven, you guys need to disavow just a little bit harder.
Hold on. How do we fix it is the thing.
You can't. We can't fix it. You can't fix it.
Yes, that's the problem I have with your rhetoric. I disagree with you. And I think that if you are telling people that there's nothing to do, there's no way to fix it, there's no way we're going to, then you are inevitably feeding into what is inevitably going to happen, but it's not inevitable. That's my whole point. It's not inevitable. There are many off-ramps that we can provide. There are many solutions.
Give me one off-ramp. What's one off-ramp?
One off-ramp is...
Wick, how do you fix it?
I'm trying to explain.
Go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, you de-escalate, right? You disavow as you have been doing and you keep doing, and then once 2026 comes around, you elect people and representatives. You're going to... Look, the extremists are going to get punished, right? These people who are calling from these
Donald
extreme
Trump
things,
got out of almost every single one of his indictments and investigations. He pardoned people convicted of seditious conspiracy for the first time in like 200 years in this country.
They're going to lose their seats.
That's
Look at
fine.
every
They already
candidate.
stole a Supreme Court pick. They've already stole multiple Supreme Court rulings. They've already indefinitely expanded the power of the president. They've already permanently disbanded USAID. They've already permanently destroyed the Department of Education. They've already permanently ruined the United States standing in the world in terms of our positions with NATO, with the European Union, with trade, with all of our allies. Like, wow, what a punishment. This motherfucker might die in office. What's the punishment? Somebody's gonna piss on his grave?
Hold on,
No,
there's
we've got-
more than just... There's more than just... Go ahead, please.
Sorry. I was just saying, and electoral consequences are real. I mean, I'm old enough to remember 2022 when every one of Trump's hand-picked candidates went down in flaming defeat. So that was the push right there, right? That was the surge to be more MAGA, to be more extremist, and it was defeated at the ballot box. And so, if you're looking for examples, that and you said earlier, you'll retract all of your points if we can point to any sort of mainstream.
What did they lose from that?
Right.
What did they learn, and what did they change after 2022?
Well, who ran in 2024? Did we see any Herschel Walkers or Carrie Lakes? Actually, we did see Carrie Lake ran for governor, right? And she got destroyed again. So the consequences are real.
Hold on. Everybody that ran in 2024 was a Trump dick suck sycophant, and Donald Trump himself re-ran in 2024 and won the election. He had to choose. Why did he? Wait, do you remember why he chose a different vice president? It's because he almost had his last one fucking killed when he was trying to insurrect the government. So how are you telling me that they had some huge consequences or learned some big lesson in 2022?
Because they lost, and then you get to 2024, and you can look at Trump and the platform that he was putting together, and I've heard it said before, when you've got these 80-20 issues like crime, issues like immigration, and Trump is planting himself in the 80% side and just riling up the Democrats to take the 20% side every single time, then yeah, he's making the broad appeal. And there's a lot more factors too when you're talking about Joe Biden, what happened to him, how he has to now step out. You're inserting a candidate who seems to have zero authenticity or ability to articulate a consistent worldview that she's held throughout her political career.
Do you think Donald Trump, I'm curious, can you articulate anything that Donald Trump says about literally any fucking issue ever? What do you think Donald Trump's grand vision is for the Middle East? How do you think Donald Trump wants to end the Ukraine-Russia war?
No, he doesn't have a...
What do you think Donald Trump's domestic economic policy looks like? Are tariffs here so that we can make deals with other countries or so that we can protect our manufacturing? What do you think Donald Trump's position is on Canada and Mexico? Are they horrible countries that take advantage of us, or was his upgrade to NAFTA, the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, the best thing ever? What do you think Donald Trump's position is on China, our number one enemy, that he's constantly undermining our position against by making enemies of every other friendly country in the world? Why are you trying to pretend? Kamala Harris is infinitely more qualified and could articulate any position a billion times better than the actual half-dead retard that is sitting in the fucking White House right now. Like, how could you even say that statement?
I would just disagree as far as if you want specific, detailed, pointed plans as to how any individual issue is going to get addressed. Of course, you're not going to get that from the figurehead of the movement. You're going to get it from the advisors, the people that come in under the experts.
You could get it from Kamala Harris.
What was something Kamala Harris was expertly articulating?
Kamala Harris was grilled on when she went, I think it was on a CNN interview. Her and Mike, or her and Waltz got grilled on their economic plans or whatever, and she had to go into her, the three big credits that she was offering was an expansion of the child tax credit. She was talking about deductions for businesses where the first, $20,000 of income would get some kind of tax deduction. They talked about housing plans, about how they wanted to give like a first-time buyer a home credit or whatever, and do like, you can walk through and listen to her detailed plans on anything she talked about, as opposed to Trump, who literally can't name a single specific thing on anything. He said concepts of a plan. That was a Trump joke, concepts of a plan.
It was. But do you think she had any level of substance or depth beyond the 2-sentence summary? We want to do a child tax credit in this different category.
Yes.
Or if she was, you think, okay, we had an 2-hour discussion where we can specifically dive into her economic plan. She would just be completely fine. It wasn't just something that, okay, if they ask you about your economic plan, here's your 3 bullet point list you're going to go off of.
She was a DA. And then she was an attorney general of California, and then she was a senator of California, and then she was a vice president for 4 years. You don't think she could detail any plan whatsoever? You really think she was just AFK the whole time?
Yeah, knowing some politicians, that yes, absolutely, you can get fed your bullet pointed talking point. I've seen Mike Pence talk in close, intimate settings while he was running for president in 2024. It was like 3 months apart from each other, and each time he made the exact same speech. And I was kind of shocked at like, oh, I was just expecting at least a little bit more of like a genuine depth of knowledge back and forth, but like,
who actually ran? Okay, hold on. Since you guys think that Joe Biden wasn't running the government and it was the deep state, so that that Kamala Harris wasn't the deep state, who was actually running the government at that point? That's a facetious question. I'm sorry. Do you think that Donald Trump could talk at all about any of his policies for anything ever?
Obviously not to a level that you're gonna
not to a level like could he even explain this? Do you think that Donald Trump, for instance, does he understand that a tariff is an import tax yet, or do you think he still doesn't know that?
I would point to, as far as, look at the number of long-form podcasts he did during the campaign, whether it was Joe Rogan, whether it was Theo Vaughn, and those, I've heard from the young people, you always say that Barron Trump was the one that won the election because he told him, hey, Dad, go on these podcasts, you're going to do great. As far as you're going to reach a lot of people.
It was a long
and
talk.
who didn't go on these podcasts? We had Call Her Daddy. That was a 45-minute interview on Call Her Daddy.
Okay, so he went on Joe Rogan's podcast. He was there for 3 hours. I'm curious. Can you name one substantive point that he brought up on that podcast?
Well, I didn't watch it. I just know he went on.
This is vibe politics. This is all this is. Donald Trump, was it? You think he was going in depth on his policies
No, he
on Joe
wasn't.
Rogan?
Yes, you're right. It was fully vibe politics, and it made him to certain people seem just more relatable. They wanted to see him sitting down talking to someone in a relaxed setting. They obviously weren't. I mean, Joe Rogan's not someone that you go to speak rigorously about policy.
And the amount of times I heard people say the Kamala campaign is the campaign of joy. We're just so joyous to be here. I'm not talking about vibes politics. Like, that's the definition of we're just going to try and ride the joy vibes all the way through to the finish line.
Well, it was joy to present like a better upshot of America of what it looked like versus Trump's message, which was just filled relentlessly of hate, right? I think this is captured in the difference between the DNC and the RNC, where the Democratic convention had a whole bunch of flags and shit in the air, and I think the Trump flags were all like deport all immigrants or whatever.
They all had ear tags on, actually.
Oh, because the assassination thing.
Yep.
Mike, go ahead. No one. Okay, fair enough. If you're right, Destiny, and I don't think you are, but let's say you are, then what is the best thing that a Democrat should do right now? What
Your
are
moral
you advocating
obligation,
that a Democrat?
your moral obligation is to fight whatever way you can until the other side is ready to go back to civility.
Are there any limits on that?
It's what you match. It's tit for tat.
It's tit for tat. You match whatever they're doing.
The most successful that's the most successful survival pattern that's ever been discovered in all of computer science and all of evolutionary history. Yes, every other strategy is defeated.
We can caveat and say in a video game, but I think we know exactly what that means. If it's tit for tat, well, what was the tit that just happened? Which means what is the tat in response? Like, is that not a problem?
Wait. Are you implying that the other side?
You said.
Hold, wait.
Are
you implying that I'm worried that Republicans are going to call for violence now? Because they've already all done that. What are you talking about?
Okay, and I'm saying the tit for tat. We've had the tit, and now you're saying that what has to come next is the tat. And
I love tits.
Yeah, and that's where we've been for 10 years since 2016. Is the back and forth. Yeah, and the other side is unwilling to return to civility.
So yeah, I would look though at who have been the most effective political leaders as far as actually effectuating real change in the country, really throughout its history. Is it the people? Just to take one example, was it MLK? Was it Malcolm X? Was it the one who said, let's actively practice civil disobedience as we're being hosed down, as we're getting dogs set on us? We're going to remain unerringly peaceful in the face of this horrific violence because that is what's going to garner sympathy and win people to our side and persuade hearts and minds. Was it that guy who got massive legislation passed, or was it the guy saying, no, actually, they've oppressed us, they've shot us, they've killed us, they've lynched us, it's time to take up arms and defend ourselves, which is the mentality that
MLK's attachment to nonviolence was a strategy that was effective because people could accurately perceive that one side was attacking the other. Right now, you have an entire media apparatus that is lying to the entire country about who's committing the violence, about who's radicalizing everybody. They are unable to perceive what's actually happening. That's the issue. Again, over 80% of conservatives right now don't even believe in the results of the 2020 election. MLK's strategy only worked because people actually saw what was happening, and you didn't have a whole AI system of fucking Russian bots and all this other crazy conservative shit who have all decided, I guess we can fucking lie as long as we, spread our message. That's the difference. If people couldn't actually perceive MLK, the children and everything getting attacked by dogs and shit, then it would have been a dog shit strategy.
Gen Z, let me put it this way, okay? Pacifism only works as a tactic if your opponents actually have a moral compass, right? Like, Gandhi worked against the British Empire. He would not have worked against the German Empire because there's a difference in how these two enemies operate. You cannot simply lie down and let your opponents destroy you and hope that your suffering moves their hearts. Not if their hearts aren't going to be moved.
Then, to both, to Dev and to Destiny, then what the Charlie Kirk shooter did was justified in your mind, then?
I don't know if I would say justified, but I mean, it's a natural consequence of what's happening. And there will be more killings, too. They will happen. Yeah, for sure. And right now, Donald Trump is providing the justification for both sides, I would say.
You act as if this is inevitable.
It is.
I very much disagree that it is inevitable. I think that we have places where we can get much less political violence. You are correct that it is happening at a greater and greater rate. Again, we had about 150 political violent activities in the last 6 months or so, and last year it was half that. So there is more, but if your only solution here is that we have to match energies, it's going to get worse, and they want that. You understand that. The Republicans want it.
No, they don't want it. No, they
crazies,
desperately. Hold on. The Republicans desperately don't want it. Losing Charlie Kirk.
They absolutely do.
Don't. You're wrong. They want to.
Oh,
pretend.
they are going to use it to basically kneel on your neck.
No,
to step on your neck.
You're
and say,
wrong.
This
you're
is
wrong.
Justified,
You're completely fucking
and so
wrong.
That the public just lets them.
The loss of Charlie Kirk is damaging to the conservative movement. That's going to hurt a lot. He was a big figure in the movement. He was super young. He had a huge future ahead of him. Turning Point USA is an incredibly successful organization. That is a huge damage to the Republican movement. They don't want. They want to be able to say that shit is happening, but they don't want it to
removes
actually
the organization. The infrastructure is still in place. There will be another Charlie Kirk. They're just going to replace him as a figurehead, but their martyrdom they are going to use to justify so many degradations of our civil liberties and civil rights, and they're going to use it to oppress liberals and leftists.
They've already been doing that.
They are
we have the Lake and Riley bill. We already have like this legislation written off of these single
Do you
death
think
events.
it's as bad as it could get? Do you not think it can get worse?
It can, but it's because they're driving it. It can't get better if one side wants it to get better. Both sides have to play into it in order to have civility.
I feel like we're just rehashing the same arguments as making a comparison here, as Israel-Palestine. And I think I've heard you say, Destiny, that it somehow finds a way that everything makes its way back to the Israel-Palestine conflict here. But if the solution here is that basically you're arguing the same way the pro-Pallies argue, that the Palestinians are getting endlessly victimized over and over and over again, and therefore the only thing that they think they can do is fight back. But then I believe your argument is, okay, then let them continue to fight back and they'll just get annihilated. Instead of maybe trying to work towards the solution and figure out where we're going to go. That seems, am I wrong? Is that not a
I make the exact same argument for Israel-Palestine. My exact argument for Israel-Palestine is that the international meddling in the affair is cancerous because both sides are permanently incentivized to fight. If you were an Israeli, you would be stupid to give any ground to Palestinians because all you can do is just keep fighting them, keep blowing them up, keep killing their leaders, and keep expanding into the West Bank. That's what they've been doing. They annexed East Jerusalem. They're splitting it up even more. They're moving settlements out more. Why would you give up if you were an Israeli? And if you were a Palestinian, well, if the entire international community is supporting you, if they're calling it a genocide, they're calling it apartheid, they're all saying that it's unjust, why would you give up fighting as a Palestinian? Both sides in that conflict are also, yes, permanently incentivized to fight each other.
And so they just spiral into destruction instead of actually trying to work and figure out a solution that's actually going to be sustainable long term.
Well, you keep saying sustainable long term. It will be sustainable long term, just for one people.
With one side, yeah.
Exactly. That's the issue. Right now, Republicans, every single large leader on the right, alternative media, mainstream media, lawmakers, and the President of the United States are saying that this is a war between good and evil. They want to succeed, but they just want one side to succeed.
But the left is saying that too. They're just largely removing the word war. They are still talking about things in terms of good and evil and existential threats to the lives of Americans in a way that I think is overblown.
That's fine, but that's because you just don't know anything about what's going on in the political system. Millions will die because of USAID. Can you admit that? Hold on, wait. Can you admit that millions will die as a result of the disassemblement of USAID? Wait. Gen Z attorney just said, he just lied. He said they said millions will die. Millions are going to die. What is it, 14, 15 million? They will, right?
It's 14. It's 14.
I'm not going to focus in on international aid as our evidence of millions will die.
How about hundreds of thousands of people that died as a result of the people not getting vaccinated because they didn't believe in the COVID shots?
What was on the lips of the guy who went and did the congressional baseball shooting? If not, millions will die based on the Republican healthcare plan, so I need to kill all the Republican leadership. When you're saying millions will die because of Republican policy, domestic policy, that's kind of a problem.
But millions have died. Don't you think there's a difference if one side is being truthful and the other side is lying about things? Don't you think there's like a difference there? If there's a truth value and one side is being honest and the other side is fucking lying, don't you think that matters?
But you were not only just saying that this is true.
Wait, I want to hear that. I want to hear the answer to
that. There's nothing we can do about it other than civil war.
If the other side doesn't want to do anything but fight, you have two options. You either get genocided or you go to war. Yeah, what do you do?
We have elections in this country. There are other ways to
14 million people that you're talking, the 14 million deaths that you're talking about is not is not a genocide in the United States of America, right? This is people abroad, and we can
Sure.
all disagree with it if we all do on this stage, right? But that is these are conversations about values and foreign aid and things like this, which is separate from talking about literal death in America, which is the topic of conversation here today.
Sure, I mean, we're defunding all of our healthcare shit right now. We're like crazy. We just did cuts to Medicaid, which the conservatives in the past have said they promised they'd never touch. You've got people that are not vaccinating their children against.
So if defunding healthcare is going to potentially lead to deaths of Americans, then is it justified to murder Republicans for that? If our greedy healthcare system is responsible for deaths of Americans, then is it justified?
I never said that it's. I'm not saying that it's justified in doing it. I'm just saying there's a difference in the truth value between what both sides are saying. We can talk about prescriptions.
You're not saying it's justified, but you're.
We can talk about. No, you're skipping over. Do you acknowledge there's a difference? Wait. Do you acknowledge there's a difference in the truth value between both sides saying these things? That when the right says the left are all communists and the left says the right are fascists, you understand that one of these statements is kind of true and the other one is totally fucking false, right? Or do you think they're the same thing?
They're not the same thing, but there's truth to both of those statements. There are actual fascists on the right, and there are actual communists on the left.
Okay, name a communist on the left. I'm gonna name one on the. I'm gonna name a fascist on the right. But let me start. Donald Trump. Name a communist on the left now.
Like I said, on the right, they are more successfully vying for power than
because they're the president of the United States.
And I've already acknowledged this is not an issue that we have among elected officials.
Then why did you just say it was an issue on both sides? Sorry, go.
Why didn't you just say the New York guy? Socialist.
Well, because then we're going to get into a semantic difference over, well, he's not actually calling for a cashless, stateless society. He just wants to do, free grocery stores and expand the social state. Because that's going to be the distinction that gets played. Because
it's a dumb distinction.
But again, it goes back to. Sorry, real quick. It just goes back to the 5-hour explosion between Destiny and Pico about use of the term socialist. And what are we meaning by when we say socialist?
No, it has nothing to. You keep wanting to skip past the truth values to have like the fun meanie arguments or whatever. Okay, while people's brains are getting exploded. The reality is look at the difference in treatment between the Democratic Party when it comes to Mamdani. They don't even know if they should endorse him. On the right, you've got Mike Johnson and everybody else covering for child rapists potentially. Do you see the difference there? How lockstep everybody is on the right, in the mainstream media, most of the alternative media, and the lawmakers and the president are all saying, oh, the Epstein stuff, who cares, LOL. And on the left, they're like, all right, I don't even know if we should endorse the next mayor of New York City. Do you see the difference there?
It seems highly likely that the only child rapist was Jeffrey Epstein, to be clear.
Nice dodge, pivot and dodge, pivot and dodge, pivot and dodge. I hope you guys jerk off. I hope you guys have big old vibrators. You jerk off to the next assassination. It's a fucking good meme. Good meme, guys. Well memed. Well memed, guys.
Going around calling everyone pedophiles.
Well memed.
I've got a question for you, Tally.
That environment, which is something, by the way, that the left used to readily acknowledge, that calling people groomers and pedophiles can actually put them in danger when it's unfounded. And so I do think that there's a lot of that going on both sides there right now.
Both sides? QAnon was literally built around a secret pedophile ring.
I agree, and that's why it's so disturbing that the left has decided to take up this mantle.
When did the left take up this mantle? The left. Wait. You know what? I almost agree with you.
Epstein stuff?
Yeah. Wait. Where did the Epstein stuff come from? Who drove that harder than anyone else in the country?
Yes, the right, obviously.
So look at that. So even there, where you're giving me a problem with the left, it comes from the right. That was my exact argument earlier. All of this is stemming from the right. Bongino and Patel and Bondi were inviting people to the White House for new Epstein files. It was all bullshit. So even the problems we have on the left sometimes are literally caused by amplification on the right. And you're saying both sides need to tone it down.
Left doesn't need to participate in it. Correct.
So the leftists need to be bigger in every single way. We have to disavow the bad people on our side. We have to point out that the right is falsely magnifying things on our side. We have to fire everybody. What?
Yes, that's effective.
We lost in 2024.
Absolutely.
Long term? We don't even know long term where we're going to be at.
So the populists on the right took over the right. The populists on the left have not taken over the left. That's why it's happening. There's a substantive difference between these two things. Right? Like the communists don't control the Democratic Party. The communists aren't in control of anything right now.
I think.
Okay, Tally. Here, Tally, just real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to go back to one thing you mentioned earlier, because you were talking about USAID and the 14 million deaths, and they're obviously bad. The argument you were making is that there is a. This is kind of a meme question, but I don't know. The argument you were making, I think, was something like there's a difference between people who die as a result of like poor policy or laws being passed or bills being passed, and then directly killing people. And you said that these two things are different, right?
They're different. I'm also trying to make a distinction between like violence in our country and like taking away resources that were improving the status in other countries. I see these as characteristically different things. I'm not saying that the other things don't matter, but yes, it's different from the problem that I'm here to talk about at least.
Right. Would you
So
agree
going,
with that,
like, going out
Gen
with
Z?
a gun,
as
going
well?
out with a gun to snipe someone is different from saying, you know, I believe that our country, and even if you think that all these people are full of shit who make this argument, saying that I believe that our country's in debt and that our money should not be spent assisting foreign countries who have not seemed to be able to take the help and run with it, but rather they seem dependent on the help. You can disagree with that, and that still seems to me characteristically different from sniping someone.
Yeah, sure. And I agree with you. It's just that whenever I look over into right-wing spaces and I see them talk about, for example, the Holodomor in the Soviet Union, they talk about that in the same breath as the Holocaust, but the Holodomor was a mass death based on policy, while the Holocaust was actually directly killing people. So I do think that we understand that these deaths are actually, they're pretty similar in the end. I don't think it really matters that much if you start to nitpick over how they died.
Well, I just want to be clear. I'm not saying that you can have disagreements on funding international aid and all that. That's fine. I'm just saying that people will do this thing like, oh, both sides are making harsh statements about the other side while pretending that both sides are making the same level of true claims of the other side. Donald Trump, in practice, operates as a fascist as much as he can. Does anybody disagree with that?
I kind of do, but
I don't know that
I think it's a semantic distinction.
Okay, do you think that Donald Trump operates as a fascist as much as Joe Biden or Kamala Harris would have acted as a socialist? For Tally or Gen Z or Dev, do you think that Trump was more fascist than Biden or Kamala would be socialist?
Yeah, probably.
I think Trump is
think
more
so.
open to the fascist influence on his side of the aisle than Biden or Kamala would have been to literal socialist.
No, Trump is fascist. Trump is more fascist, not open to fascist influence. He operates as a fascist.
I'm sure.
Not sure. Yes, he does. If you say sure, where's your doubt? And we can dispel it right now.
I just think that
I don't agree with that, but go
word gets. I mean, Deb, do you want to jump in?
But why I don't think Trump's
Say
a
you
fascist?
agree or don't agree with it.
Well,
Yeah.
fascist is it is a political ideology like socialist is, and Trump, he doesn't operate under the rules of an ideology. He's just self-interested, and self-interest is not a political ideology.
I agree with that, and that's why I said that I think Trump is more open to that type of influence.
I'm not saying open to type. No, you're obfuscating.
Anything.
This is the biggest equivocation in the universe. Not open to that type of. He's acting in this way. He's acting in this way. He's acting as we can say authoritarian dictator, if you prefer that over fascist, more than Biden or Kamala.
He is absolutely a tyrant. He would be more of a tyrant if he could.
Right? Do we disagree with that?
I would agree. I think it would I'd probably stem it on, when you're coming from the business world and you're just used to getting things done in business sense, and then you enter government, and now it's all the rules and regulations in place, which are good. I agree. Checks and balances, due process, all good things. Lawyer man here. I don't know, hot take. But
in what world, in the business world, does the CEO just go and do everything?
You don't have to jump through as many hoops. You disagree with that?
Absolutely, I disagree with that. What are you talking about? Depending on the size of the business? You think this Google CEO can just spin up a new product in a day? Or that the CEO of Amazon, Bezos, can just walk into some team meeting and skip their whole sprint and decide to just implement a bunch of new features? Like, what do you mean? There's a ton of bureaucratic hurdles that you have to jump over every massive corporation. Same thing with the United States. And the United States is a massive company if you want to compare it to such. A CEO can't walk through anything and just single-handedly do stuff. Of course there's a whole bunch of bureaucracy from top to bottom.
I don't know. I'm not going to disagree that there's a lot of regulatory hoops to jump through in business.
No, not regulatory hoops, business hoops. Why are you trying to blame it on the government? You don't think corporations have their own internal systems for getting things done? How do you coordinate a company of thousands or tens of thousands of employees?
Yeah, there's a lot of internal processes and systems and structures in place. The only point I'm making is that if you want to wake up in the morning and say, I want to start this project, let's get it on, you don't have to worry about things like the Constitution that are going to say, well, actually, you're not allowed to do that. Even if it's a good idea, even if it's something that people can agree on and get behind, you don't have to worry about a completely independent body, unless you're getting into completely outside the business world into things like fraud or anything that.
What if you're completely in the business world and you're simply the CEO and you do something stupid and then the board expels you? What do you mean? Of course, all these same things exist as a CEO. And if in a company, if you don't have over 51% of the equity or whatever, or voting shares.
I don't know. We see a lot of CEOs do a lot of stupid stuff that I guess they're able to ride the roller coaster, and it is what it is.
Donald Trump does not operate. Donald Trump does not operate like an effective CEO. He operates like a fucking retard. I'm just saying that cover for him. He wasn't a good businessman. He didn't operate his businesses effectively, and he doesn't operate the U.S. government effectively as a politician or a businessman. But we've also pivoted away from the topic. Donald Trump acts as a fascist or an authoritarian dictator. What do you want to say? Way more. Not influence. He acts as one more than Biden or Kamala ever acted as a socialist.
So actually, this is a good point.
Yes, that's true. That's just true.
Okay, let me bring it up in this way then. When there are large calls on the left in 2020 when Biden wins the election, we're putting pressure on him as the left to pack the Supreme Court, abolish the Electoral College, add DC and Puerto Rico as states. There was one more. There was four. I'm blanking on the fourth. But when we're the filibuster. Get rid of the filibuster. When we're talking about key American institutions, that it is leftward pressure that we're focused and trying to undermine and dissolve entirely. I've seen you answer this question before. Your answer is, well, that will never happen, so I'm not worried about it. And can we not say the same thing about Trump when he says something crazy, like, I'm going to tariff the entire world, and then the Supreme Court says, actually, no.
Well, there's a difference.
Wait, no,
between
stop.
these two
Wait,
things,
hold
man.
on. There is a difference. Wait, what's the difference, Dev?
The difference is that Trump doesn't listen to any of his advisors, and all of his advisors just suck his dick constantly.
Close. The difference, but also the difference is, Biden didn't do any of that and he was president for 4 years. Donald Trump is doing all of that. He has tariffed the entire fucking world. Biden explicitly said he would not pack the Supreme Court, and he didn't. Biden specifically said that they weren't going to kill the filibuster. They didn't.
He said he was going to create a fact-finding commission to decide whether or not to pack the Supreme Court.
I don't even remember this statement. I'm pretty sure Biden said multiple times. Also, by the way, I looked this up. Mike Lee never made a statement walking back his unhinged tweet about the Nightmare on Wall Street either. But no, I don't remember Biden saying he would make a fact-finding. Hold on, wait. Oh my God, wait. Are you mixing this up with when they tried to pass legislation saying that there should be like a standard of behavior for people in the Supreme Court?
No. I know exactly what you're talking about. That came later. That came during the presidency. I'm talking about during he was asked expressly in the debate with Trump in 2020, are you going to pack the Supreme Court? And he waffled on it and said, well, I'll form a commission to look into it, which that's as I remember it. If anyone can fact check me and something being wrong about that.
I've got the fact check. I've got Biden's quote right here. He said this, and I think this was on the campaign trail. He said, if elected, what I will do is I'll put together a bipartisan commission of scholars, constitutional scholars, Democrats, Republicans, liberal, conservative, and I will ask them to come back to me with recommendations as to how to reform the court system because it's getting out of whack, the way in which it's being handled. And it's not about court packing. That's what he said.
Okay, you can say that, but what does getting out of whack mean? And before I know where we're going to jump into, I also agree. I think what the Senate Republicans did was pure politics in 2018, blocking Merrick Garland from the court. I can disagree with it on the moral level. They had the right to do it, absolutely. And I believe the historical record shows that anytime a majority in the Senate, or the majority in the Senate has an opportunity to put a member on the court, when it was cross sides, that I think it's happened like 7 times where the majority Senate was opposite the president and the majority Senate did not fill the Supreme Court seat.
Sure. So Biden put together this commission. They did a study. Nothing came from this. He didn't do anything. They didn't even recommend or take a position on court packing or anything else.
It lasted from April to December, and at the end they basically recommended that nothing change because it was all fine.
But here's the thing, because I can play the same game though, and we can say, well, how many times did Donald Trump say he wanted to lock Hillary Clinton up on the campaign trail? And then he gets office, and then what happens?
They're doing investigations into every single person that was involved with Hillary Clinton and with Barack Obama. That's what's happening right now, right?
So we need to I'm talking about, where is the prosecution of Hillary Clinton? Where was even the indictment of Hillary Clinton?
We don't have that yet, but there was the whole email investigation that lasted for however fucking long now. That wasn't under...
Wasn't that pre-Trump, though?
That was pre-Trump. Yeah, but some things pre-Trump were apparently biased towards Trump, and some things pre-Trump were apparently biased against Trump. I don't know how you make sense of that. But also, Trump right now is doing investigations on all of his political opponents, right?
Like, Give me some examples.
Well, right now, the whole reason, why are they bringing up the AutoPen stuff? It's because they want to try to roll back all of the pardons they can so they can continue to go after Hunter Biden and everybody on the J6 Select Committee. Number one. Number two, Tulsi Gabbard just released all of this bullshit Russia stuff, a whole bunch of documents that she hopes nobody ever read, so that they can start issuing subpoenas to, what was it, Barack Obama, the Clintons. They tried to even bring back in Mueller, but I think he's got Parkinson's now, so they couldn't. For anybody, was Barr involved in this? For anybody who was even remotely involved with this. They're literally trying to do it right now. He's writing executive orders targeting law firms that worked with the DNC or Hillary Clinton for no reason, just targeting law firms.
And so I just have to bring it back to, though, if the promise here is lock her up, right? That's the big chant everyone wants to point to. And then he gets in office and expressly says, I can find the quotes, but when asked specifically about it, is there any plans of prosecution of Hillary Clinton, he has repeatedly denounced it and said it's not going to happen.
Hold on.
And I understand we're doing the whole Biden investigation stuff.
No, forget. Yeah. Do you acknowledge that Donald Trump has written executive orders targeting individual law firms because they worked with Hillary Clinton?
I've heard you say this. I have not read the orders themselves. I would need to see just for myself.
I just want to be clear, just for the record. You're not familiar as an attorney, as a practicing attorney. You're not familiar with the President of the United States writing executive orders that is targeting individual law firms in the United States, and the whole drama that arose about that, with them cutting huge deals with the administration to do pro bono work, with other law firms dropping clients and adding clients, with him rescinding security clearances from these huge law firms so they couldn't do work for anything related to the government. You're not aware of any of that. You haven't heard of anything there.
No. Let me clarify. I am aware. As far as I've heard you say before, that this is something that's happening. I'm saying I have not looked into it. I've not read the EOs themselves. I've not read any of the rationale justification behind it. Hate to do the classic lawyer answer, but it depends, and facts really do matter. Circumstances matter.
Wait,
so
then why would you...
I don't want to speak on it.
Then why would you so confidently say that they're not targeting Hillary Clinton or anything else if you're not even aware of the extent of his targeting law firms through executive order and through the DOJ?
Because you're going to disagree. I feel like this is a pivot, though. I'm talking about the prosecution of Hillary Clinton for her emails. We're talking about 2016 right now, when he was campaigning on lock her up, right? Because her emails, WikiLeaks, and all this stuff, and he kept promising it's going to happen, and then we get in office, and then it's actually we're going to leave that behind because we got a country to run. We're not going to focus on that kind of stuff. Because isn't this stuff recent? Isn't this a new EO?
No, this was like almost right when he came into office.
But of this term, right? 2024.
Yes.
This wasn't 2016 we're talking about, right?
No, it wasn't. But also for a lot of the... But one of the big differences back then is Trump didn't realize that all the stuff that he wanted to do was illegal. So a lot of his administration was pushing back on him. Now